Hello world. Picking up from where we stopped last time, we see the villagers and Raoul make their way through a dirt path. Just as they see a gate to a village, it disappears. It turns into the wrecked entrance of the villagers' village. This is to the astonishment of the villagers mental. They yell and scream at Raoul to let them go, and Raoul hits the meanest grin and says, "This place isn't the goal, it's the start." Raoul claims to be tired and hence, needs a break. He takes a sip of his lavish sparkling water and the villagers glare intensely. The chief guy starts begging for a gulp and Raoul responds, "Just one cup, now where have I heard that line before?" This leaves the man absolutely flabbergasted. He is speechless. Raoul finishes his drink and drops it on the floor. Even while knowing it's empty, the villagers still go rabid for it. The destination of the field trip is the mining village Malka that is near Nor village. However, in this fun field trip, you always get sent back to the starting location the moment you see the goal. At some point, one of the mothers have had enough and begs Raoul to let the kids go. This is quite shocking considering how selfish the villagers have been so far. Raoul isn't having it and mentions the young soldiers who were left to die who are also kids. They watched them die and are now asking for their own kids to be spared. This pisses off Raoul, and so he literally uses magic to unalive the children. They scream and beg for help. They even blame their deaths on their parents. "Because you didn't help the soldier, he is uninstalling our lives." The parents were in tears. They were shocked that he actually did it. Clap clap, Raoul uses magic to force them to continue the field trip. We find out the kids that were unalive are actually illusions created through dark magic. The real kids never actually left the village. To stop them from leaving the village, Raoul uses a magic barrier. He never intended to bully or take down humans who are not involved in any crime. The kids, not having a clue what is going on, go back to playing their stupid games. Meanwhile, this is just the start of Raoul's sick revenge. We see our oh-so-wonderful villagers under the scorching sun of the desert. The flesh even began tearing off and they have their tongues out like wild animals. After a bit they can no longer handle the heat and dehydration, so they start screaming for water. They're basically having a mental breakdown. Raoul notes that the villager have finally reached the thirst of the soldiers. This signifies the end of the field trip and Raoul seizes his illusion magic. Now they are at the entrance of a neighboring village. Raoul congratulates them on this amazing achievement. The guards of the village spot the now zombie-looking villagers. They shut their gates because of how saucy they looked. The zombie-like villagers start retaliating, asking why they closed the gates. The village chief announces who he is. He commands them to open the gates for him. The villagers, now knowing that these people are from Nor village, consider opening the gates for them, but just as they are about to do so they see the nasty injuries on the Nor villagers. They also look somewhat deranged and psychotic. The Nor villagers continue to beg for help and water. They even go as far as calling them rats and non-humans. Raoul, using magic, transforms himself into one of the NPC villagers and starts threatening the villagers. He even said he will unalive them and strip them down for all their goods, just like he did with all the passing by merchants and travelers. He even says it would be a piece of cake. The village chief of Nor tries to deny these claims and accuse Raoul of not even being from their village. The guards kinda believe Raoul, but the villagers are trying to tell them that he attacked them in cold blood. Raoul then uses magic to remove the hair tie from one of the Nor villagers. He makes it look like wind is carrying it. It lands on this rich-looking guy at the top of the gate next to the guards. The guy says that the ribbon belongs to his kids who haven't come home in weeks. The Nor village woman tries to lie. She claims her husband bought it for her. The old rich guy calls cap and says it was hand-knitted by his wife, so that is impossible. The villagers realize that all the recent disappearances were because of Nor village. Raoul, like the dastardly devil he is, says, "We'll tell you where we buried your daughters, if you give us water." This pisses off the villagers and they say hell no. Raoul, playing his role perfectly, says, "Then I guess we'll just have to steal it." He then uses magic to force all the Nor villagers to start charging at the gates. They do this with surprising force. Obviously the villagers aren't just gonna let this happen and fight back. The old rich-looking man is even crying for the sake of his daughters. They began raining a fury of stones at the Nor villagers. They do this with such precision that they hit vital spots. The Nor villagers beg for help, but all their pleas fall on deaf ears. They continue to stone them and now they have been turned into mincemeat. I don't even know if this is allowed on YouTube, lol. We see the head chief of Nor villager ask Raoul for water and Raoul asks him how much he can pay for it. This is where everything comes full circle and the Nor villagers are left to bleed out in their own filth. Raoul returns to the kids. They mistake him for their parents, don't know how they mistook the silhouette of one guy for the whole village. To end of this revenge, Raoul is gonna turn these kids into soldiers, if you know what I mean. Of course the kids are pretty confused by this and ask who this bozo is. The kids basically self-snitched that they have been involved in the evil deeds of their parents. How they unalive the cash cows that have been wandering into their village and whatnot. Before any more of that, Raoul takes back the dagger that he originally gave to the orphan soldiers. The kid didn't like it and so threatened to end Raoul, which is a pretty funny joke. Raoul rebuttals, if you like unaliving so much then why don't you become soldiers? He uses mind control magic on them and makes them wanna become soldiers. Some guys notice people coming and it turns out to be the kids. They start pleading to become soldiers and they look pretty high while doing so too. Raoul watches over them like Batman and wonders if being raised by highwaymen or following the same path as murderers gives them happiness. Raoul then gets ready for the main course meal of getting revenge on the princess. We see a blood trail that seemingly takes us to a dungeon. Sandra, Raoul says. It's that crazy knight that saved the princess and was still punished for not doing enough. She seems to be delusional and is cursing out Raoul in her pool of blood. It is said that she is the next main character of Raoul's play. We see the princess in a fury from looking for Sandra. From her perspective, Sandra ended the guards and escaped from prison. The princess is reminded that thanks to the hero's hex, killing is no longer possible within the kingdom. And honestly, Raoul is just hacking at this point. He is in Minecraft creative mode. Anyway, the princess realizes the disappearance of the Sandra is most likely the doing of Raoul, the former hero. This made the princess extremely nervous and she orders her slaves, knights, to find and capture Sandra immediately. Talking about Sandra, we see her moaning and whining about she is gonna unalive Raoul. We overhear her wonder why the former hero won't just obey the princess and Raoul notes that she has gone completely nuts. Raoul doesn't want this so he uses his illusion magic to change his form. Sandra is left in shock from what she sees. It's the princess. Raoul in the form of the princess asks Sandra if she is sorry for what she did. Of course Sandra, being the simp she is, says she would even give up her life for the princess. In return the princess decides to give her a chance to atone for her sins. Sandra reminisces on her past with the princess. How she unalived her brothers out of her own resolve to help the princess. She says she will do it again if the princess commands her to. Raoul in the form of the princess asks Sandra to not betray her expectations once again. And I must say that Raoul's acting is on point. Sandra kisses the back of her hand, and in response to this the princess grants her a reward. Using magic, she clothes Sandra in a suit of armor. Sandra then gets the second coolest panel of a character in this manga. Anyway, there is a ruckus in the halls of the castle. We find out who it is, and surprisingly it isn't Raoul but instead Sandra. She then gets this cool panel that hopefully won't get my video age restricted. The knights are pretty surprised by this betrayal from the princess simp. They even question if she is going mad. Sandra ain't trying to hear all that and slices his head with an effortless swing. The other knights are woozas and are afraid of Sandra. They try to protect the door to the princess room and get absolutely decimated by her. Sandra breaks into a crazed laugh and says she is doing this all for the princess. And we see Raoul with two gigantic speech bubbles call Sandra an intelligent dog, which is honestly disrespectful to actual dogs. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe for part 6. Have a nice day y'all.